Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Welcome to Consider Islam. Live with Kenny Bomer, an affiliate and founder of the Consider This TV network. Any views, actions, or comments made by panelists during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of CTTV network hosts or affiliates. This channel and its affiliates do not claim any right over any of the graphics, images, or songs used in this video that are protected under copyright by other individuals or organizations. All rights are reserved to the respective copyright owners. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. The works on this channel are protected under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, of 1998, which amended the existing U.S. copyright law to address important parts of the relationship between copyright and the Internet. Now here is your host, Kenny Bomer.
Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so some technical difficulties today with this internet here at this hotel. So please bear with me on that. So yeah, my computer suddenly restarted and not very stable. So the thing is, I do bear witness there's no God other than Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is his final servant and the seal of all prophets. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So listen, I'm going to read an article about this transgender individual. I came across this because I see my internet is still acting up. So let me give it a second to see if it stabilizes here. While I do that, while I try to see what's going on with this signal, question is, all the people listening now or who may, the stream doesn't act up any more than it has already. Ask yourself, and if so, would you agree with a man dressing up as a woman, going to a classroom full of young children, reading them biology and so forth, promoting these ideas and confusing the children, which is contrary to the clear design of males and females that our Creator has designed. He has not created anyone to be both male and female. Matter of fact, no one is male and female, even despite combinations of XY chromosomes and so forth. That doesn't qualify someone as being both male and female. And you can't choose one or the other. That's a scientific fact. And so, anyways, we're going to get into this and just ponder on that question. Got no problem with people going into classrooms and reading these gender bending stories, these books and so forth to young children. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just don't believe that God conscious people hold, you know, have a masses of people that are atheists and agnostic and so forth. But nevertheless, I'm going to read this story, and it's about an individual who is a drag queen, a man dresses up as a woman who was going into elementary schools and reading gender bending and gender ideology books to young children in these classrooms. First and foremost, why do they need to be read books about these types of things? They're learned. I mean, we weren't read those types of books when I was young. There was no place for it. There was no need for it, and it's only in current times that we see this happening. And surely it's a sign of the times before the day of judgment. So ponder on that question. Are you a God-conscious person as I read through this article? Inshallah, God willing, as long as my internet holds up here at this hotel. Once again, I do apologize for the lag or the failed connection if I do cut out. I will say that I'm going to be opening up the panel here shortly after I read through this article for people to come on if you'd like to voice your opinion or whatever. I do request that you turn on your camera backstage beforehand. Otherwise, you won't be coming on to the panel. So let's go ahead and proceed. I'm going to read this article. And it says, drag queen cornered by protesters after story hour event. It says, let me scroll up a little bit here. It says, Sab Samuel, also known as the drag queen Ida HD, said he has fears for his life after being blocked from driving out of a car parked by COVID truthers, is what he said. This article just came out on the 4th, so today is the 8th, so 4 days ago this article came out. It says Brighton, in Brighton, England. It says the drag queen behind a drag story time tour of the UK children's libraries was ambushed by a group of radical COVID quote-unquote truthers on Thursday. Sab Samuel said he was unintimidated and determined to continue his performances of children's book reading sessions under the drag persona Ida HD in a tour that has attracted controversy. On Thursday, Samuel was blocked from driving out of a car park following a story hour session at Brighton's Jubilee Library. Protesters who subscribe to a bogus sovereign citizen ideology is what they say in this article. This is a pro-transgender website that I'm reading from. But nevertheless, it's the story that I want to talk about. It says, which they mistakenly believed is them above the law, blocked his exit with their vehicles while calling him a pedophile and yelling, why are you grooming children? During the confrontation with the aggressors, filmed and posted to COVID conspiracist channels on Telegram, Samuel's driver repeatedly beeped the horn before a member of the public came out of a nearby building and the protesters eventually retreated. One of the COVID truth activists confronting Samuel was a conspiracist because of this lagging here at this hotel, which is very aggravating to say the least. Alhamdulillah, it's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this article. Maybe I should just stop it and do a different stream, but alhamdulillah, we'll keep proceeding with it. Let's do this. Let's do this. So, okay, so let's do this. There's some characters backstage. One character right now says for transgender and says that the camera does not work. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to invite this individual on so we can have a discussion. I have an idea who this person probably, what group he belongs to, or whoever this person is, but we'll bring them on and see what transpires, and then we'll try to get back to the article if the internet allows it. I might have to ask the hotel here for me to move closer to the office or something, because the internet back here is horrendous. Maybe I should use my hotspot, but nevertheless, let's see what happens when I bring this individual on. Okay. Okay, so okay, I'm trying to add this person. Okay, so welcome to the panel. What's on your mind? Are you there? Okay, so I'm not sure where this person is, so I'm going to just remove him. Okay, so let me add him back. So turn your mic on, and what's on your mind? Hello, are you there? Hello, are you there? Okay, so yeah, I can hear you. Pardon me?
For trans. I'm for trans. I'm for trans. Trans. I'm for trans. No,
What?
no. I'm for trans. I'm for trans.
So you're here to play games, correct?
I'm for trans. I'm supposed to love them. Can you love them? Can you love them?
Do this.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah. What is on your mind?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Aren't they trans? Aren't they trans?
I have no clue what you're saying.
And for trans?
You're for trans?
Yes. Walk in love.
Okay. What do you mean you're for trans? Do you believe in God?
To love them.
You love them? You sound like you're talking with a fake voice.
Is that what you think?
Or you sound like a lady from another stream that I am familiar with.
I'm for trans.
You're for trans?
Yes.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Love. To walk in love. Love
To walk in
everyone.
love. Are you a God-fearing person? Do you believe in a creator?
I know my creator.
What?
Will you?
Excuse me?
Will you?
I don't know what you're asking, but I ask you, do you believe in a creator?
Will you?
Do I believe in a creator? Do I believe in God? Yes.
Then love the trans. Love them all.
Okay. I know who you are. You're not fooling anyone. So I'm going to bring someone else on. Okay? The
What's
shock
up, Kenny?
and the awe. It must be quite surprising that I will bring you on. What is on your mind?
I don't know. You didn't bring me on the last time on this topic. I was seriously depressed over it. Lost sleep and everything, man.
Okay.
Oh wait, I got you
What
coming
is on your
through. Hold
mind?
on. That's why we got the echo here. Hold on, let me mute the. Yeah, okay, that's weird. Okay. No, so yeah, so well, dude, what did I tell you? You can go back to your first or second day of Ask Kenny anything, right? And did I not say I'm willing to work with anyone on this topic because it is totally horrible what they are doing? Did I not say that? I did say that. Perfectly willing to. Because what they are doing
Yeah,
is
you
horrendous.
said that.
Okay? So,
Yeah.
let's work together on this thing. I mean, I think we can. Okay? Because, I have the same concerns as you do, probably even more so. I mean, they're going after children. Have you read the HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services guidelines on what they call transgendered care?
Do you think you care more than I do about this issue?
Yeah, I see you writing a book, and that's a good thing. I just don't have the time or patience to write a book.
Yeah.
But have you read
Yeah.
the Health and Human Services? Okay. Well, it's not unless you just did an update to your book because they just came out like 3
Yeah.
weeks ago, 2 weeks
So
ago.
I've done
But anyway,
extensive research on this topic, and the book is filled with information from various sources. And yeah, so I've spent quite a bit of time and effort putting this book together. That's how important this book is. This topic is to me, because I never would have believed in a million years that I would ever be writing a book about this topic. But when I was in Israel, I was hearing about it so much that I began I've done research in the past on the issue, but I started researching heavily while I was there. And when I got back, I started writing the book, and the book will be out in September. Couple of weeks, September the 5th, God willing, inshallah.
I might have to check it out and read it. The only thing I did express to you on Twitter, which was kind of funny, just the title is just kind of, I don't know, it just reads off a little bit. But be that as it may.
Well, the title speaks for itself in that people have a right to self-identify. I have no qualms with people having their right to call themselves anything they want to, but I maintain my right as a citizen of the United States, and first and foremost as a Muslim, to disagree with their proclamations. So the title, I think, is quite fitting. Your right to self-identify, my right to disagree. Who is oppressing whom is the subtitle, right? Who's oppressing whom?
It's that who is oppressing whom thing. That's all. Anyway, but be that as it may, let's not get into that. Anyway, the department. By the way, do you know who are the first woman 4-star admiral is? I'm not doing this to test your buzz, John. I'm not. Oh, so you don't know Rachel Levine?
No.
Rachel Levine. Rachel Levine is, you don't know? Okay, cool. Well, you might want to put this in your book. It's very important. Rachel Levine is the first woman 4-star admiral. She, quote unquote, is also the deputy director of the Health and Human Services Department. Rachel Levine was I am familiar with it. Okay.
I didn't write about this individual in my book because I wrote about dozens of others. So you can't. When you write a book, you can't write. It's not a list of encyclopedias. It's a book of limited chapters, and you can only say so much in a book.
I understand it, but my point in bringing this up is this person was also the public health director in Pennsylvania before she got her nomination for the undersecretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. Now that's the person, the undersecretary, is the one that actually runs the department. The one at the top, the actual deputy, they're just the face. You know what I mean? They're just the people that go before Congress kind of thing. Okay. Well, anyway, this person also, seriously, they call her the first woman 4-star admiral. Okay. I mean, that is just offensive. Oh, by the way, funny note on this. Her name is Richard. So her name really was Dick. I'm just saying. Okay. Just throw that out there at you. But no, they just published a couple weeks ago, or maybe actually probably a week ago too. They just posted the official guidelines of the federal government on transgender care for youth. Need to read it. It is shocking. So basically what this means, okay, is if your state does not follow the department guidelines of transgender care, your state doesn't get money for health care. Or if say you're a parent and you bring your child to the doctor and the doctor says and the child says, hey, I think I'm a girl today, or whatever, 4 or 5-year-old little kid, whatever. Well, that doctor immediately has to prescribe the Department of Health and Human Services transgender care. And this affects all states, not just California anymore. It's not just Washington. Okay? All right?
See, these doctors that I mentioned in the book, these are gender-affirming doctors. I mentioned some of the nations, the world's most prominent gender-affirming doctors, and I also mentioned some who are against the whole ideology of gender-affirming care, who are trying to. Well, they're afraid to speak out against it because if they do speak out against it, they're subject to face lawsuits and lose their practices and be fired from their whatever hospitals they work at and so forth. So so it's not surprising that a transgender person, which I'm very reluctant to call anyone transgender, to be quite honest. I have many reasons that I discussed in the book about that. But it's not surprising that this individual that you mentioned would be head of the Health and Human Services or whatever you mentioned. It's not surprising at all. They're actually pushing that. It's an agenda. It's a political movement. It's a almost like a religious movement in a sense,
It is.
and
It's a cult.
it defies the truth of our Creator, and that's my primary reason for writing the book, because it's a defense against falsehood, and so I feel obligated to write about this topic, and I'm still shocked that I wrote a book about this. I think it's very much needed.
Well, hopefully,
And I do agree. So right now we're talking peacefully, and I like to continue to do that because when it boils down to it, if you're a God-fearing person, which I know that you are, God-fearing people need to come together regardless of differences and difference of opinion and regarding religious theology and so forth. We need to come together to fight against this evil together, because the great majority of people in this world are non-religious, and it's going to be more and more complicated and more difficult to fight against this falsehood as time goes on. But what's interesting is that, by example, the UK, they started this gender-affirming care about 10 years prior to the United States. But recently an article came out where they're actually speaking out against the United States and their endorsement of gender-affirming care, because after 10 years they realized that a lot of people began to detransition at that time, and that suicide rates remain the same and actually increased by 19% for people who actually transition. They start wanting to go through the detransition process. And by example, in the UK, there's only one gender-affirming clinic in the entire UK, whereas there's hundreds at this point in the United States. And so that's a very interesting article. I'm going to talk about that here in a couple of days if I could get my internet here at this hotel to work properly.
It's a money-making thing. It's $100,000 for the entire treatment process and ongoing.
Yeah, it's going to say that because I have a book in the chapter in the book called All About the Benjamins, and it's specifically talking about the money involved in gender-affirming care and how these ideologies came about.
And they want taxpayer money to pay for that. Not only that, but insurance to pay for that. Did you study anything about Eddie Money, the guy that really started this thing? Eddie Money.
It's not Eddie Money. It's Dr. John Money and
John Money.
John Money. So the first let me show you real quick. The second chapter. The second chapter of the book is titled "The John Jones Case," and it's specifically about Dr. John Money and his interactions with David Reimer, who's a twin that was they tried to raise as a child through what's called nature versus nurture, through gender affirming care, through nature versus nurture rather. Tried to raise him as a child. Dr. John Money believed that any person could be raised either male or female by just simply through nurture, regardless of what their biological sex is. So David Reimer, his name was originally Bruce, and he went through he was a twin, by the way, and he had a botched circumcision when he was just a baby, and his penis was entirely burnt off, and they didn't use a scalpel; they used an electric form of circumcision, and they actually burnt his penis completely off, and his parents were just at a loss for what to do. And they heard about Dr. John Money and his gender-affirming, his transgender gender ideologies and so forth. And so they took him to John Money, and they started raising him as a female that he could never be. Obviously, make a long story short, him and his brother wound up committing suicide as adults. Because it was whereas John Money was proclaiming success in the John Jones case, in his articles and so forth, in the medical journals and so forth, he was actually lying. The Reimer twins were falling apart, and both once again they committed suicide as adults. And so, anyways, I talk extensively about Dr. John Money and Alfred Kinsey, the so-called father of the sexual revolution in the United States, and their pedophilic ideologies, and they're pedophiles. There's no doubt about it.
They were. Did you? I don't. Dudes, like I said, man, I could have shared with you. There's a video, good YouTube video, of one of the doctors that actually worked at Johns Hopkins with money, and money was a total fraud. I don't know if you've seen that, but money was a total fraud. He was not an endocrinologist. He was not anything, dude. He just kind of blustered his way in there. And even the head of Johns Hopkins University, the one that started all this stuff, he put a stop to it. Johns Hopkins University didn't do this for a while. I think they're doing it now again because of political stuff. Yeah. But no, I'm sorry.
They started doing it again about the. I can't remember the man's name right now, but I'll look it up. Johns Hopkins. I'm looking up in the book right now. But yeah, so they stopped it for a while because whereas initially Dr. John Money's ideologies were supported, and he was highly commended for his studies because he was lying in his studies. But once they started realizing that the John Jones case wasn't what he was proclaiming it to be and so forth, and that everything was actually contrary to what he'd been proclaiming, they stopped supporting those ideas, and only recently have they started doing it again. Johns Hopkins University, I talked about that quite a bit.
I'll just finish up with this.
Dr. Paul McHugh. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'll just finish it up with this. And Kenny, I am 100% serious about this. I know I like to bust your balls and stuff. You know what I mean? Whatever. Okay, but no, on this thing, I am really serious on. Okay, because this is a horrible thing what they are doing. Okay, what they are forcing parents to do to their children. Okay, puberty blockers at the age of 7, then cross-sex hormones at the age of 10 or 11. Then they throw them into actually, there's a YouTube video of Veritas, lefties of TikTok. I think it's called the Twitter. Highly recommend you subscribe to it. Lefties of TikTok. Okay. What this person does, she just goes on TikTok and she publishes the lefty videos that they publish about themselves. Well, anyway, there was a conference just held in California of these transgender doctors, these specialists, and one dude admitted that the youngest he did, a 12-year-old, removed her breasts. Okay, and the youngest that they did, 16-year-old, removed the testicles. Okay, did what they call the bottom surgery, as you know it. I mean, that is just horrendous. What the hell are you doing, people? This is Dr. Mengele stuff. You know what I mean? And people are willingly sending their kids so they can say, oh, but I'm a good mother. I care about my child. I'm giving them the health care they need. And they're being lied to. And these are horrible people. I'm just saying, I'm sorry, parent. Any parent that does this to their child, you're an abuser. You're not a loving parent.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll leave it there. I know you said because come up. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I wanted to just read something just from the book, the first chapter called Transgenderism, where I'm basically breaking it down and explaining to people what transgenderism is and where it came from and so forth. But the doctor that you mentioned is Dr. Paul McHugh. And so I say in the book, I asked the question, how can sex be reassigned when it was never assigned in the first place? In 1979, Dr. Paul McHugh, distinguished service professor of psychiatry at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, ended sex reassignment procedures at the prestigious university. JHU is the birthplace of gender ideologies developed by Dr. John Money, but studies by the university itself have proven them to be false. However, in 2017, JHU started offering those services again, not because of some newfound evidence in science, but as a result of the aggressive campaign to promote transgender ideologies backed by the Biden administration initially. Many other universities have since followed suit. One last paragraph, just a short paragraph. Even as early as 2007, Boston's Children's Hospital became the first major program in the United States to focus on children and adolescents affected by gender dysphoria, as they proudly mention on their website. And by 2017, the number of pediatric clinics dealing with gender dysphoria jumped to 45 or more. Now there are hundreds, even despite numerous studies that show 80 to 95% of children affected by gender dysphoria naturally grow out of it by the time they hit puberty, if allowed to develop naturally. Those statistics are usually ignored by transgender influencers who claim that unless those children are placed on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, they will wind up committing suicide. And the thing is that the suicide rates remain the same and actually increase for people who go through the transition. They increase by 19% percent. And so this is a very serious issue. They're attacking the children. They're actually targeting the children. They're taking women's rights in the process. And again, I asked the question at the beginning of the show, even though I had the technical issues that I was having, but I asked people to ponder and reflect and think and ask yourself, are you a God-fearing person? If we're God-fearing people, then we are obligated. We can't just sit by and let this type of thing just continue without standing up and saying, no, we're not going to have this. And I'm not saying harm anyone. I'm not saying assault anyone. I'm not saying do anything cruel or mock these people or whatever. But we simply don't have to agree with the proclamation that they make that a man could be a woman or a woman could be a man. They could be both. They could be neither. They can be a whole slew of things just because they say or think it or feel it. We don't have to settle for that. We're not obligated to go along with these ideologies just simply because they're trying to pressure the world into doing so. If you're a God-fearing person, we should be the ones on the front line saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not trying to harm anyone. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but I'm not going to do that for the sake of my Creator. Because if we did, let's say I come across a man dressed as a woman and he's insisting that I call him Sheila, and I start calling him Sheila just to appease him and make him feel better about himself, then I'm really placing him in front of my Creator if I did so, in my opinion, because the truth of the matter is my God, my Creator made him the biological man that he will forever be. And if I start calling him Susie or Susan or Shelly or Michelle just because he wants me to, then I'm denying the very truth of my Creator. And I'm actually committing, in Islam, you should be familiar with the term shirk, and actually associating partners with God, because that's saying that the human being has the ability to determine their own, what they are, despite what the Creator created them to be. And that's a huge problem. It's only going to get worse if we don't come together and speak out against it. And sometimes we have to be willing to say, okay, yeah, we disagree about some things, but if you're a God-fearing person or a group of people, I'm a God-fearing person, and I belong to this group of people, and we believe that there's a Creator who created each and every one of us to be perfect, even if someone is born with a physical defect or a deformity. God created that person with that deformity for a reason, and it's a test to mankind. And if you believe that, if you believe in a Creator, we should be willing to say, you know what, I believe that our God, our Creator, made us all perfect, exactly how He intended each individual to be, and we should be fighting for that and fighting, for that cause, and set aside differences and come together and fight these. It's the devil, man. It's Satan himself trying to lead people astray. I mentioned verses of the Quran that discuss that, where Satan, Iblis, the devil, when he's cast out of paradise, he says that he'll command them and they will cut the ears of cattle, and he'll command them and they will change Allah's good creation, and so forth. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. I mentioned in the book about a doctor, I can't remember his name right now, but the doctor who, along with some Japanese scientists and so forth, were cutting the ears of a bull in order to clone cattle and so forth, in order to produce bigger and stronger and cattle that produce more milk and so forth, basically trying to better the creation of our God, our Creator. So the Quran mentions that, and then also obviously Iblis says to Allah that I will command them and they will change Allah's creation. And here we are in 2022, and people are mutilating themselves, trying to make themselves a better them, despite what our God created them to be, instead of just saying, I accept, if we can accept these people for who they are, regardless of what their biology is and so forth, we can accept them. They don't have to mutilate themselves to be accepted, but they somehow feel that that's going to get them the happiness that they seek. It's just the devil, telling them lies, is what it boils down to. So, Yeah, so we got to come together and fight against this nonsense, in my opinion. Are y'all there? Can you hear me?
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Hi, Issa. How are you? Welcome to
Hey, assalamu alaikum. How are you? My question that I wanted to ask is, do you think that there is a place for people who may not be non-binary and a place for gender affirming space within faith? Do you think that's a possibility? Like, do you think that religiously, because even you could say, like, in the Islamic sources, there's an identification of the third gender as well. And in Iran, they do gender reassignment surgery. So do you think that there is a space to affirm different identifications if it's not being imposed? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, science proves that down to the smallest cell in the human body defines whether or not a person is male or female. So the biology speaks for itself. The biology is created by a creator, and there's no compromising that. So no, I don't think there is a space. I think what it boils down to is that these people are suffering from a mental health issue, and there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean that's anything wrong with them other than they have a mental health issue, and you don't treat mental health issues by hacking away at the body. You treat mental health issues by getting, getting some counseling and talking to people about why they feel the way that they feel, and give them positive reinforcement about who they are, and make them, focus on things that they could be happy about or feel positive about regarding themselves, because we all have something special to offer. We are all given gifts. We all have something special to offer the world. And so the thing is, a lot of these people, they start going through depression and they feel awkward at certain periods of time when they're going through their adolescence, puberty, and so forth. Or they might just feel awkward and have, autism and so forth, or they just don't feel like they fit in, and they think that changing their sex is going to make them fit in. But what needs to happen is that what we need to do is extract the good qualities out of who they were designed to be. So if a young man, by example, thinks that he's a female, we need to find ways to talk to him and extract the good qualities of his maleness, and reinforce that and give him a positive, outlook towards who he actually truly is, instead of this fantasy about who he could be. This verse that I mentioned, I'll summarize with this verse that I mentioned a second ago in Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verses 119 through 120. And this is when Satan was cast out of paradise by Allah. And it says, "Cursed by Allah, Satan said, and surely I will lead them astray, and surely I will arouse desires in them, and surely I will command them, and they will cut the ears of cattle, and surely I will command them, and they will change Allah's creation. Whoever chooses Satan for a guardian instead of Allah is verily a loser, and has suffered a tremendous loss. Satan only makes them false promises and deludes them with empty hopes. Truly, Satan promises them nothing but delusion." I'll summarize by saying that, when they feel down about themselves, they feel awkward, they feel like they don't fit in for whatever reason, they are, being duped by Satan, who's in the world, obviously the shaitan that are in the world, that are telling these people, these young people, and people of all ages for that matter, telling them that if they would change their sex, or obviously they can't do that, but if they could be the opposite sex, they would be happy. And that's a delusion. That's a false hope and a false promise. And this is exactly what Allah is saying that Satan would tell mankind. They would delude them with false hopes and false promises. And he's offering them nothing but delusion, because what the statistics prove, that, as we mentioned earlier, that they go through this transition, and so-called transition, they don't actually change into anything different. Their biology remains the same, but they go through this process and they hack away at their bodies and mutilate themselves, and and so forth, through this chemical costuming and all that, and they realize that they're not happy. As a matter of fact, a lot of times they're even more unhappy, because they're going against the grain of what they really know down deep that they really are. Bruce Jenner, by example, he knows that he's a man. He knows down deep that he's a man. He can call himself Caitlyn all he wants to, but down deep he knows that he's a man. And he may be one that slides through. I don't know what his mental state is. It's not my business, but the statistics prove that these people do continue to commit suicide, or at least attempt or think or ponder about suicide. And the people who do actually transition are 19 times more likely to commit suicide. And that's what the statistics prove. So obviously Satan is promising them nothing but false hopes and delusions.
If I could just chime in here real quick on this. So no, you mentioned Bruce Jenner. Actually, have you seen? Well, first of all, have you seen the documentary by Matt Walsh? Have you seen that? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Is it really that good? No, because I haven't seen it. I've just seen clips.
No, you should see it, because what you're going to see is that the so-called experts that he speaks to, they're bamboozled by a simple question. They don't want to answer.
Right.
Matter of fact, they're offended. Right. You're not supposed to ask the question. As a matter of fact, they don't want you to even bring it up. And so it's that documentary. I encourage everyone to watch it, because it's quite telling.
So what is a woman? I gotta join that group. It's expensive, but anyway, no. I just wanted to join in on this real quick. The whole thing, you mentioned Bruce Jenner and others. They will actually, Bruce Jenner will say, "I am a man. I could never be a woman." He's actually said this. Okay, he said he just does this because it makes him feel comfortable or whatever. It's just kind of what he wants to do. It's an old man. I'm bored with everything. I have all kinds of wealth and everything, so I'm going to do this. I don't know why you would do this, but okay. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that person doing that. I would still say it's wrong. I would still sit there, yeah, you're going to hell, but you are. But that's beside the point. But hey, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. That's on you. Don't come in the, you know what I mean? Okay, yeah. But when they're coming after children, when they're saying that a child can decide what gender they want to be, I mean, you look at these videos, go to libs of TikTok. I mean, seriously, you're sitting there, well, my boy, he said, well, my daughter said that he is really a girl when he was 3 years old. What are you talking about? Yeah. How can you make that decision? And when they're mutilating, when they're pumping children at the age of 7 with chemicals that are used to castrate, sex offenders, chemicals that actually, no, it's funny. So I mentioned the HHS did its guidelines a couple weeks ago, for transgender cures of youth. The same day they released this of puberty blockers at the age of 7, the FDA came out and said, you should not do puberty blockers for what they were developed for, which is children who go through precocious puberty, because it causes brain lesions and all kinds of stuff. So like, what the hell? This stuff is not safe. It's not reversible. You know what I mean? And that's the problem I have.
Brother Rod, I have a quick question to ask. So I'm curious, how many parents are doing this? Is this a lot of parents, or is this a minority? Thing. Anomaly?
No, that's the thing. No, that's the thing. It's a social contagion. Seriously.
That's matter of fact, that's how it start out with it, about it being a social contagion in the first chapter. So what's happening is the parents that go along with this gender affirming care, they're looked at as heroes, and they're looked at. Matter of fact, I describe it as somewhat similar to Munchausen syndrome, where they get attention. If you're familiar with the Munchausen syndrome, that parents get attention by making their children sick, and they get attention from family and friends and whatever. It's called Munchausen syndrome, and this is a form of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, in that they are getting recognized for being gender affirming parents and getting accolades and being patted on the back as though they're heroes. They're the cool parents, whereas the parents that speak out against it and try to guide their children to accept the reality of their biology, they're looked upon as they're transphobes, and they're the bad parents. And a lot of times those people, what's happening in the schools is that they have what's called gender closets. They have they have gender closets at many schools, and what they do is when the parents drop the little boy or the little girl off in the morning, dressed as a little boy or a little girl, they go into a gender closet, literally into a closet where they have clothing for little boys and little girls, whatever, and they change clothes. And at the school, the little boy who goes to the school changes into a dress or whatever, some type of female outfit, and instead of Shane, he becomes Sheila, and his classmates and his teachers and everyone at the school treats him like a little girl while he's at the school. At the end of the day, they go back into the gender closet, change clothes, and go back home to their parents, and their parents never know anything about it. This is a reality. This is really, really happening. And so this story that I was going to talk about today was about these drag queens and so forth, and not just drag queens, but also so-called transgender people that are going into classrooms and reading out of certain books that I mentioned in the book, and also reading from the gender unicorn handouts and the genderbread person handouts and so forth, and they're confusing the children. They've got these little kids, really of all ages for that matter. They're going in early as possible and confusing them about what their actual biology is, making little boys think that they can be little girls, little girls think they can be little boys, and so forth and so on. And but why are they doing that? Well, the obvious reason is because this is a political movement. This is similar to a religious movement, and that you know, the earlier you get your hands on these children, later down the line, it makes it easier because they're already been duped into following and believing these ideologies, these false ideologies that have been propagated. And so now they're already conditioned to accept what it is that they're feeding them. And so here we are, an older generation, and we didn't grow up with this nonsense. And so we're more prone to say, no, we're not going to accept that, and I'm not going to have that. But kids are very impressionable, and when you have everyone at the school, claiming that they're transgender, then they want to be part of the group, and they start calling themselves transgender, and so forth. And it's a contagion. It's literally a contagion spreading like a disease, and it's something that's very serious.
Do you have in your book, okay, the thing that happened in England? It was just recent, probably about a year and a half ago. This is why England is stopping this, because there was this school where all of a sudden they introduced this transgender boy, in other words, a girl that was a boy. And then all of a sudden they had like 70% of the female of the class, they all of a sudden identified as transgender. Okay. Yeah. They all of a sudden want to be boys. No, that's actually what caused them to say, wait a second, what's going on here? But I did want to mention one thing. Can you mention us of our generation? We didn't go through this. Issa, you've all heard of this. Well, you've all probably read it, seen it, whatever. The King Has No Clothes. You know what I'm talking about? The play The King Has No Clothes. The Emperor Has No Clothes. Yeah. In the 1970s, early mid 1970s, my dad took me to see The King Has No Clothes. It's a great play, right? Well, anyway, at the end, as you know, the dude walks out in his underwear if it's a PG rated thing. And and then somebody else in the crowd, he has no clothes on, and everybody erupts and laughs, right? Okay. Well, my dad took me to see that. So I was in kindergarten or first grade at the time. And they were asked, oh, so what did you do this weekend? I said, my dad took me to a play where I saw a naked man or something like that. I don't remember saying that. The child just, you know what I mean? The cops were called, basically. And they questioned my parents. They questioned everybody. So we've gone from that, okay, where you go see a great play, okay, The King Has No Clothes, that teaches you, do not sit there and say, just go along with things that people are saying, okay, to now, okay, where they are telling children, well, we're going to take you to this trans stripper event, but you can't tell your parents. Teachers are doing this, okay? This is well documented. Yeah. How did we get there? You know what I mean? Something went
Yeah.
horribly wrong. And it's not just the United States of America, it's Europe. Well, Europe is starting to back away from it, but it's pretty much all over the place, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't, well, Kenny, I don't know if you're aware of this, but back in the 2000s, early 2000s, the biggest place for sex change surgery wasn't Thailand, it was Iran. You flew in Steve, you flew out Eve the next day. They didn't care, okay? They actually the Shias, they actually considered a cure for homosexuality. There's a good documentary on it on Al Jazeera on the whole concept. But this is back in 2004, 2005, so I don't know if they're still doing it. But no, what is happening is a total flip side. And like Kenny said, this is Munchausen syndrome. This is, okay, so first of all, you got these kids, okay, and I'm not talking the little ones, babies, but you got these preteens or even teenage girls. Oh, by the way, Michael Knowles, I don't know if you follow Michael Knowles, Kenny, or Issa. Michael Knowles, also from the Daily Wire, the same organization that did What is a Woman. Michael Knowles has a great interview with one of the girls who is detransitioning. Okay, and she actually had her breast removed. She's like, and she went through the testosterone treatment, which, by the way, you can go to Planned Parenthood. They're handing that stuff out like candy. Okay, anyway, but point is this: she's going through she's detransitioning, going back to being a beautiful young woman again. But no, she's like, no, you go on social media, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram. And you're like, you're a teenager, you're 12, 13, 14 years old, and you're going through all kinds of problems or whatever. You're not adjusting well to your body. Your friends are different. Everything's different. And they groom you. They say, well, how are you feeling? For instance, she actually says, well, I said I don't like the sound of my own voice. Who likes the sound of their own voice? Nobody. Okay. Well, clearly you don't like the sound of your own voice. That's clear. That clearly means you're trans. And every time she goes little step by step, okay, well, I think I'm trans in this way. All of a sudden, all the likes, all the Kool-Aids, and they get the likes, and they get the no. Seriously, it is a euphoria rush. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned
that feedback loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
we got the parents, like you said.
Do you mind if I just ask a quick question? So, like, what do you think about intersex? Like, for example, people who have different kinds of actual biological differences within. Like, for example, fetuses can be androgen resistant, and they can have an XY chromosome and a testicle, but they never can get their period and grow breasts, for example. Or a fetus can will remain feminine unless it receives the hormone of androgens. What do we feel about that? Like, and my second question I wanted to ask, I know it's a little bit different. If you disagree with these type of situations, should people be punished? Should they be put in jail? Like, what happens because people want to get sexual reassignment, treatment? Like, what do you think about those things?
I'll answer that here in a second, but let me mention Michael Knowles here briefly. I mentioned Michael Knowles in a chapter of the book called The Genderbread Person. And I say that according to Michael Knowles, host of the Daily Wire, in a speech given at Boston University titled Teach the ABCs, Not the LGBTs, he said liberal educators and politicians from the local level all the way up to the White House are indoctrinating extremely young kids into radical sexual ideologies. That is why they're fighting parental education rights in states like Florida, where a kindergarten teacher appeared on MSNBC to complain that he could no longer tell his 5-year-old students about his date night with his boyfriend. And so I asked the question, why do 5-year-old students need to hear about their teacher's homosexual date night? In response to the Florida controversy, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki began sobbing during the interview as she talked about bills that critics say target gay and transgender children. She claimed that kids are being used as weapons in a political culture war. Well, yes, they are, but
Exactly.
they are being used. But she's trying to flip it to where the people who are actually targeting the children are looked at as though they're the innocent ones, where they're actually the ones that are guilty. So it says her statement was, I say, her statement was dripping with hypocrisy because Psaki herself happens to be on the side that is placing children at risk. Therefore, her statement is correct. which is basically what I've just said in summary. Children are being exploited and used like pawns by transgender activists who claim victimhood while they themselves are guilty of abuse. In regards to your question about intersex, I do talk about intersex. I'm bringing it up in the book as I'm talking. So Dr. Paul McHugh, he says, although much is made of a rare intersex individual, no evidence supports the claim that people such as Bruce Jenner have. This is Dr. Paul McHugh, his quote, and I quote: although much is made of a rare intersex individual, no evidence supports the claim that people such as Bruce Jenner have a biological source for their transgender assumptions. Plenty of evidence demonstrates that with him and most others, transgender is a psychological rather than biological matter. But I say a lot more about intersex. Let me go to something else. Okay, so I say back in 2008, let me tell you what chapter this is in the book. Bear with me one second. This is a chapter called the trans influencers. So I say that back in 2018, 2% of high school students claim to be transgender. That is a rate of 2 out of every 100 people, which is an enormous increase over the 0.1% of the population who have suffered from gender dysphoria historically. Approximately 1 out of every 10,000 people is what the stat is. The latest statistics show that the numbers have increased and that 6 out of every 1,000 people identify as transgender, and as many as 1 in 100 people are intersex. Intersex, formerly known as hermaphrodism, now considered a stigmatizing and insensitive term, hermaphrodism, describes people who are affected by as many as 30 differences in hormonal and genetic levels of in utero. However, it is important to specify that while some intersex people might identify as trans, not all are trans, and not all trans people are intersex. This condition only affects 1% of people who feel their gender ideology and biological sex are misaligned. Trans influencers routinely use intersex conditions to argue that biological sex lies on a spectrum. They say sex is non-binary because there are circumstances where a male can have an extra X chromosome inherited from either his mother or father, which is recognized as Klinefelter syndrome. There's also another intersex condition called androgen insensitivity syndrome, where females have XY chromosomes typical of males, but their bodies can't respond to testosterone, thereby causing them to appear female. However, biological sex is not determined by chromosomes, as most people incorrectly assume. Sex is determined by gametes, which are made up of chromosomes. Gametes, I'm saying in the book, gametes are mature male or female germ cells, usually possessing a set of haploid chromosomes capable of initiating formation of a new diploid individual by fusion with a gamete of the opposite sex. Intersex people either produce one of 2 types, male or female. This is very important. Intersex people either produce one of 2 types, male or female, or they are infertile. However, some have a condition known as ovotestes, and Sister Katerina actually knows someone like this. However, some have a condition known as ovotestes, an extremely rare condition that affects 1 out of 20,000 people who possess a combination of gametes. They produce both types of gametes while having both ovarian and testicular tissue. In most cases, however, only one type of tissue functions. This is very, very important because this makes a clear distinction between a person who has this condition, what their sex actually is. They're either male or female. So I say they produce both types of gametes while having both ovarian and testicular tissue. In most cases, however, only one type of tissue functions. A person will either produce eggs or sperm, but never both. But then I say there's only been one documented case study of a man with ovotestes who doctors believed to have produced eggs at one point before his testes started producing sperm. But I say still, none of this has any bearing on people who suffer from gender dysphoria. And so I have obviously all the references for all this information in the book. But anyways, so I say gender dysphoria, formerly known as gender identity disorder, traditionally begins in early childhood and is diagnosed in people who consistently, insistently, and persistently express an extreme displeasure or discomfort for their own biological sex. However, not everyone, once again, who identifies as transgender is diagnosed with gender dysphoria. While the number of people who claim to be transgender is increasing, the rise does not seem to be a result of those people suffering from typical gender dysphoria during childhood, according to Dr. Kenneth Zucker. And of course, he goes on to talk about the social contagion of it all. But why I wanted to read that is because even though there are these conditions where a person can have this testicular tissues and these through this ovotestes, they can have both male and female internal or external parts. They only produce eggs or sperm, and so this makes a clear distinction. This is what the doctors say. This makes a clear distinction between someone who is a biological male or a biological female. A female will never produce sperm. It'll never happen, and nor will a man ever produce eggs. That case study that they mentioned.
Wait, Kenny, hold on, Kenny. Are you saying men cannot have periods and get pregnant? I'm shocked. You transphobe. How dare you say that? I'm just, no, it's shocking. Yeah. I know, right? No. Yeah. Actually, if I could chime in here, sorry to interrupt you. That was great stuff. It really was. I was impressed. Yeah. No, really, it was. But no. So here's the thing, Issa. What you're talking about, we are birth defects. Okay. That happen, okay, in a rare, minute, okay, subset of live births, okay? And these things present in normal ways, okay? For instance, I actually did some research. Do you know why I did this, Kenny? Actually, it's because when you first came out with this stuff, you were having the atheist chick. She was arguing with you, and she was arguing about the intersex people, okay? Yeah. So I went and looked this stuff up. No, this chromosome stuff, okay? So you have what's called the super female. Okay, that's the XXX female. They're usually extremely tall, okay, like really giant tall and skinny, okay, and they are like really suffer from mental retardation at the same time. Well, really low IQs, okay, and then you have well, anyway, you got various mixtures of the XXY and X chromosome stuff, okay, but as Kenny said, one presents over the other, okay. There is never a case where a female will produce sperm or a male will produce an egg or an ovum. Okay, so one presents over, but is also produced in most cases of some kind of either mental retardation. I know we can't say that anymore, but mental retardation or low IQ level. There is something other, and also other definite physical characteristics that just don't match a normal thing. Now, what can be done to these people? Love these people, okay, whatever. But you don't say, no, you're really a girl or you're really a boy, even when they're not. I mean, that is a horrible thing, okay? Yeah. And no, remember, this whole thing started this gender dysphoria, which is a real horrible thing, which is usually produced through sexual abuse or some kind of neglect or some kind of psychological abuse. That's what it was always done. And it used to be the treatment was called watchful waiting. And I'm sorry I'm rambling on this, but there's another YouTube video on this, Kenny, which I can share with you, where they have these psychologists, they're talking, this was in 2017, I believe. And this is when this stuff is really ramping up. And they're having a conference, they're talking about this. And the psychologist, child psychologist tells the story because she's sounding an alarm. She tells the story. She's like, I'll give you a case study. I had a child that came in, okay, it was a boy, okay, 4 or 5 years old, that all of a sudden said he was a girl, and the parents are shocked, and they bring him to me, and the child is, saying that he's definitely a girl, okay, he was, blah, 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 right, okay, and through meeting with the child, talking to the child over months. She said it took about 6 months to realize what was happening. Probably less than that, if I recall correctly. But it turns out they had another child. This was the only child for 4 or 5 years or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden the parents had another child and it was a girl. And because these parents were paying all this attention to the girl and not to this boy, because he was the only child beforehand, he thought that was because he was a boy and it was better to be a girl. Okay, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was quickly resolved. Okay, I mean that's actually a common thing. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, she said if this was 10 years ago, she said if this was to happen today under law, California law, as soon as this child says I am a girl, I would have to prescribe gender affirming therapy. Okay, under law, otherwise she loses her license. Okay, she could be sued for malpractice. So
Yeah.
gender affirming therapy, they have to tell the parents, okay, you have to accept your child's new identity or new gender. You have to sit there and buy girls' clothes and girl things, okay?
And
Which
if you don't,
is,
they'll take the child from the parents.
yeah, they'll
This-
take
the
the
watch-
in
the wa- the
California,
watchful waiting-
Washington,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
watchful waiting idea is actually condemned under these transgender
Mhm.
ideologies. They condemn that. They say that if you go through this watchful waiting process, that you're actually putting the children at risk of committing suicide, and it's basically
Yeah,
just a scare
exactly.
tactic. Obviously, parents don't want to lose their children, but instead of basically feed them a lie instead of tell them the truth and go, as I mentioned earlier, about giving positive reinforcement. You know, I grew up in a youth home, and I grew up with children who were battered and abused, and who were sexually assaulted and were abandoned and so forth. As I was, me and my brother were abandoned. But you know, so we experience a wide range of different issues. But the thing is, what you have to do in those situations is extract the good and give positive reinforcement for who these kids are. Let them realize that it's not their fault and so forth, and you know, make them feel confident about who they actually are, instead of, you know, feeding them lies and deceptions about who they could be if they chop their bodies up and go on these puberty blockers and all this nonsense. So that's what the solution is. It's a mental health issue, and it should be treated as that way. It should be treated through therapy and through counseling and through you know, positive reinforcement about who you actually are. Be proud of who you are. And I asked the question in the book, you know, if I can accept a human being for who they are, who their biology says that they are, while they can't, should I be forced to agree with them just because they can't accept themselves for who they actually are? Or I think, because that, to me, that's endorsing the lie that they're telling themselves, instead of, you know, saying, hey, look, I realize that you think that you're something other than you are, but listen, look at the qualities that you have. You know, what are the good things and good aspects about your personality and good things that you have to offer the world, so that they could actually be proud of who they actually are, and through this positive reinforcement and so forth. But I want to answer just one question that Isa had asked about what to do with these types of people. That's the answer. Get them counseling. It should take everyone in the community who knows these types of individuals, who come across these types of individuals, to be extremely patient. Don't be hostile. Don't be rude. Don't be insulting, and so forth. Try to be as understanding as possible. But in my opinion, my strong opinion as a God-fearing person, and believing in the truth of Allah, and that you know, I don't want to compromise that. Be very patient with the individuals, but with the limitation of never endorsing the falsehood. In that, as I mentioned earlier, just because someone wants to proclaim themselves to be a female, but he's actually a male, if I start calling him Sheila just to please him, then that's an endorsement of the lie, and you're vicariously guilty of that. And it's like a denial of our God, our Creator, and what He created that individual to be. The better solution would be to say, listen, I respect that you're calling yourself this. That's why the name of the book is Your Right to Self-Identify. Sure, I have no problem with that, but please respect my right to disagree with that, and call you Michael if your parents named you Michael instead of calling yourself Michelle or whatever, just by example, because I don't want to endorse the lie. And but by no means do we hurt these people or target these people or try to oppress these people. They're not being oppressed. They make the claim that they're being oppressed because they can't go into certain restrooms. But listen, no one's trying to keep them from going into certain keep them from using the restroom. Just go to the restroom that accords with your biological makeup. How about that? You go to the restroom all you want. So no one's at the boundary of the restroom door saying you can't come in here. But we don't want you going into the wrong one. And
it's not just restrooms. It's women's spaces. It's going into and let's face, dude, seriously, okay, well, you see what I look, dude, Kenny, okay, kind of bearded, full-grown men, you know what I mean? Okay, no, there are bearded, full-grown men going into women's spaces like saunas, okay, and like changing areas and say, well, they put on a dress and they say, well, I'm a woman, you can't discriminate me. And no, and they're waving their thing around all happy. Okay, no, there are videos where the they're complaining and they're thrown out. They're saying, no, you can't be this transphobe, and they're excluded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Kenny, have you ever watched Posey Parker YouTube channel? Posey Parker, Jean King. She's from Britain. She started the whole definition of woman. Woman is adult human female. I'll send you the link to her. She's got some great stuff. But she was, I'll give you the background story of her. She was a feminist, okay, back, years ago. And then she got mad at the political situation. So she decided to join these feminist organizations, these hardcore radical feminist organizations in London. And she shows up and they're at the meetings, blah, blah, blah. And she notices over a couple months, all of a sudden there's clearly men dressed as women joining these feminist meetings. She's like, that's odd, in a British voice, that's odd, but I didn't think nothing of it. And then all of a sudden, they got elected to the board, and actually one of them became the president. And she's like, hold up a second. You're a dude in a women's organization. They threw her out. They threw her out of the women's feminist organization. Threw her out. Not only that, but then she's like, okay, fine. I'm going to get a billboard. I'm going to post it right across the street, from this organization's meeting quarter, and it was the definition of woman, adult human female. The cops were called. She got arrested.
Yeah, they don't want you. They don't want you to ask that question. They're very offended by it.
Exactly.
I'm curious about identification. So, like Imam Bomer, you were saying a point about that you wouldn't want to call someone Michael if their parents named the child that. Well, what about
if the parents named the child Michael, I would call the child Michael instead of not Michelle.
I completely understand, but what I'm asking is what happens like if a person embraces another religion, for example, and they might take on a name like, if they became a person who followed Vedic thought, they said, oh, okay, my name is now Lakshmi. My name's not Michelle anymore, but it's Lakshmi. Or I'm a Muslim, my name was George, but now I'm Abdullah. How do you, if these people, people want to identify as a new name, isn't that okay? Like when we look at different faiths, people take on different names. What about if a person is taking on a different gender identity? Isn't that okay?
That's a great question. But the thing is, like, as far as in Islam, when Muslims take on different names, they are names that are representative of, obviously, my Muslim name is Mujahid, which means one who strives in the cause of Allah, and so that's an honorable name to take, and it doesn't defy the truth. So if a person is named Michael, he starts calling himself Michelle, and he's propagating the idea that he's actually a female, then he's actually propagating a lie. Me calling myself Mujahid was a name given to me by my partner that used to be in the music business, that was there when I did the Shahada when I was all those years ago. He said it was fitting of my character, and so it was a name that that's been with me ever since, even during my time in the music business when I wasn't the best of Muslims during that period of time, could have done far better than I did during that period of time. But nevertheless, as far as Muslims are concerned, and accepting a Muslim name, the Muslim name is a means to it's a testimony of faith about who you actually are as an individual, and usually these types of names are names that are honoring Allah and so forth. So again, it's not defying truth. A man calling himself by a female name is a propagation of a lie and a falsehood, and it's a big difference there. But listen, that's why the name of the book is Your Right to Self-Identify. So I'm not saying you can't do that. It's not my business when it boils down to it. Call yourself whatever you want to, but please don't ask me to call you Michelle because you think that you're a woman that you'll never be. And I say that as politely as possible. Matter of fact, I was at a store recently, a couple of months ago, and there was a man dressed as a woman that was working there at the store, and there was an exchange of change with a man that was in line, and the man just just out of reaction or whatever, when the clerk that was dressed as a woman gave him the change, he said thank you, sir, and he wasn't trying to be rude, but the man dressed in the dress, he wasn't too happy about it. He wasn't exactly rude in response, but he did say rather sternly, he said, "You mean ma'am? Thank you, ma'am." He said, "Excuse." And the man's like, "Excuse me." He said, "Thank you, ma'am." He said, "Oh," he said, "I'm so sorry. Thank you, ma'am." And I was standing there and I was thinking, okay, for one, it's not my business. But I was actually thinking about myself, about how would I respond to this individual, because obviously I don't want to have a confrontation with the individual. I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want to have a fist fight. I don't want to be offensive and so forth. But I would most likely, as respectfully as possible, say, "I'm sorry, but I can't call you by a woman's name," and we'll just leave it at that. Or I don't know what I would do in that situation, but I know what I don't know what I would do, but I know what I wouldn't do, and I would not call this man dressed as a woman by a female name. I just wouldn't.
So I have a question. Would you, because you want to be loving and respectful and kind and compassionate to other people. What about using like a third gender pronoun like they? Would you be comfortable with doing that?
No such thing.
Because it's being respectful to the person as opposed to, because they obviously feel that they have a different identity, self-identification. So isn't it important for us to, like, even if a person embraces another religion or anything like that, you could say, "Oh, well, you're not whatever religion you were before. You're not a Christian. You're not Jewish. You're not Muslim." I mean, whatever when a person converts to a religion, you say, "Well, you're not what religion you are now. You are the religion from before because that's what you were born as." I don't know if that's fair.
Those are two different things, because changing a religion is changing how you think. Changing your ideas and your ideologies and your worldviews and so forth. That happens all the time. But to claim that you're a sex, or for a man to claim that he's a woman that he can never be, that's an actual lie. I mean, it's a propagation of a lie, and as God-fearing people, as I mentioned at the beginning, we should ask ourselves, if you're a God-fearing person, are you going to stand on the side of truth when you're faced with these lies? What are you going to do? There should be a respectful response, but there should be a firm response. Be firm, fair, and consistent, in your response, and that I firmly maintain my right to recognize you with my own common sense, my God-given intellect and common sense, basic common sense. Even if you think I'm the dumbest person in the world, please allow me to at least use my common sense. And if I can see an Adam's apple, and I can see facial hair and razor stubble and all that, and how big the man's hands are, and can clearly see that this is a man, a biological male here dressed as a woman, please allow me respectfully to maintain my right to if I in this interaction to address you as such. And that doesn't mean that I would go out of my way to keep saying he and him and and so forth just to aggravate this person, but I would not give in to the demand to accept the idea that this man dressed in this dress is a woman. You know, he has a right to put the dress on, call himself by any name he so wishes, but I maintain my right to not have to accept it. First and foremost, as a Muslim, truth, fighting against falsehood, and as a citizen of the United States under the First Amendment that gives us a right to say unpopular things despite the government approving of it. We can say unpopular things despite the government's approval. That means not only that group of people, but any other group of people. We have a right to say unpopular things despite without government approval, and a right to refuse to say things that they want to be said. That's what the First Amendment says. And so can I at least maintain my right under the First Amendment and under the 15th Amendment to cast my vote on any given topic? Do I have to lay my rights to the side because Michael wants to call himself Michelle today, and I have to go along with it just to make Michael happy? Well, what about my creator? I mean, this man is in front of me in this dress. He's obviously got male anatomy underneath that dress there, unless he's got it chopped off. But does that count? Does that count that I can see his Adam's apple? And I see the razor stubble on his face. I mean, the man that I'm talking about literally had facial hair. He's standing there in a dress, insisting that this other customer call him a female, or call him ma'am at least, with razor stubble on his face. I mean, come on. It's like, do my rights count? So your right to self-identify, my right to disagree. Who's oppressing whom if I don't go along with your lie and your delusion? Am I really oppressing you? Or are you not oppressing me in my right to look at you as the biological man that you are and refer to you as the biological man that you are? If I have to set my right to the side, now my rights have been oppressed. So who's oppressing whom in this situation? Am I really oppressing you? And the question is, if you're a God-fearing person, who is on the side of actual truth? The biology says, the science says, even if you're not a God-fearing person, the science says to the very smallest cell in the human body, they can put it under a microscope and tell if this person's a male or a female. It's clear. There's no guessing involved in it. And so who's on the side of truth in that situation? Or would it compromise the truth just to make this individual happy? I don't think so. I'll never do that. I'll never do that. And again, I don't have any problems with these people. I'm not trying to oppress these people, but I'm not going to allow them to oppress me either.
If I could just chime in on that thing, Issa, you bring up a very interesting point. I actually side on with Kenny on this. Except, well, I will say this: there is a difference. Like, okay, no, this is real world scenario for me. Okay, because I work with a lot of people from various companies, various cultures, and various places around the world. Okay, and especially in my communication in email and communication in various other forms. So I've been busted for misgendering someone. I am seriously. I was talking to a dude. It was a dude. Okay, sounded like a dude, and I actually mentioned in the email, yeah, he. And this dude responded, "You just talked to me, Robert. I am a female. I am a woman. How could you not know?" This was on not a Skype, but it was Teams video conference, and this was clearly a dude. Okay, sounded like a dude, everything, but evidently he identified as a dude. So I got to be extra special sensitive on this because these are clients and customers. So I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, whatever. don't fire me. Okay, so there is this thing about that. So no, if someone comes up to me and says, full beard, whatever, or even semi trying to pass, whatever, and says, my name is Sheila, I'm like, okay, I'm going to call you Sheila, but I'm going to laugh at you. You know what I mean? Behind your back. I just am. I'm sorry. That's the way it's going to be. You know what I mean? Okay. But either way, no.
My thing about some people say, it's just a name. Why not just call them the name? And the thing is, because other people in the community are listening, and if you're everyone who participates, even if you don't mean it, you're calling this person Sheila reluctantly. Everyone who participates in that and being pressured, like you're actually in your situation at work, you're actually being pressured into calling this man a female, referring to him as a female. You're being pressured into doing that.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So if everyone
I'm gonna laugh at him.
Yes, everyone who
but
actually
no, we're
does
all gonna laugh at him. No, but that's the thing. We're all gonna laugh at him. And I've made that note. I'm like, okay. But
everyone who's overheard doing that, or who does that because they want to be all inclusive and be happy-go-lucky with everyone and so forth. That's great. Man, that's fine. That's fine. But it not if it means lying in the process, not if it means denying our Creator in the process, because everyone who overhears it, let's say, by example, someone hears me calling this Michael Michelle, and then they're like, man, these Muslim guys are recognizing this man as a female. What does it say about I don't want to make it about me as an individual, but the truth of what it means to be a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, the three Abrahamic faiths. We're all God-fearing people, and so if we start giving in as God-fearing people and start addressing these people by their falsehoods, then that's a vicarious liability. You're vicariously committing a wrong there. You're actually participating in gender charades and a lie. You're playing make-believe along with the person who instigated the game of make-believe. But you don't have to do that. And so there should be a way to be as respectful as possible and patient as possible, and just say, look, I'm sorry, but I maintain my right to recognize you for what you are. Please respect that. I mean, I'm not telling you not to call yourself by whatever and feel whatever you want to feel about yourself, but go right ahead, because that's going to be between them and our Creator on the day of judgment. But please don't try to force me to be involved in that. And please don't expect me to stand by and call you Sheila with the world listening and watching, because every human being that does it, you've got these politicians and these lawmakers and all, these people that are getting behind this movement because they don't want to lose votes and so forth, and so they're participating in the lie. So what are they doing? They're putting falsehood in front of the truth. And my goodness, some of these people are calling themselves. We see that there's Muslim women doing it. Ilhan Omar, I don't know what she thinks she's up to, but she's one of the prime examples of this. And there's Christians and other people.
Do you really wait? No, I'm sorry. Do you really think she's a Muslim? Do you really think she's a Muslim, Kenny? I'm sorry.
No, she had an affair.
Wait. She had an affair, and then she's married a Kufa.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Yeah, I don't.
She had the affair with her what do you call it? Her campaign manager, but she's now married.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But as far as this transgender issue, and I don't want to, because I do believe she's a Muslim. And I don't want to be addressing something about her that I have no knowledge about. But what I do have knowledge about is what she's doing as far as back.
Oh, we lost you. Dude, Kenny, you there? You froze.
I think he froze.
I'm going a few seconds.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I mean, I just think it's important that we are respectful and understanding of people who may not identify as we do. I think it's a really important thing to be compassionate and understanding. You could say, look, I don't agree with that, but you can just be respectful to the person. Just it's like human decency.
Well,
Even if you don't agree, whether you think you're lying or not, that person believes that they are. So why not just be loving and compassionate and caring to that person? That's all I'm asking.
Well, I agree with that. And that's why I said to this person, I said, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I will call you, I mean, seriously. Someone comes up to me and says, my name's Billy, and I don't, but their name's really Robert. You know what I mean? Are you going to say, oh, but your name's really Billy? You know what I mean? Okay, fine. I'll call you whatever you want. But I did stress this person. I said, no, I don't agree with this, but I will call you by whatever name you want. Okay, no big deal as long as you're paying my company the money. But I'm not going to get fired. But no, there is this thing though, where it's not just that. It's not just calm. Well, there's two aspects of this. One, the children, and that to me is the fundamental thing on this. You do not trans the children. Okay, if you're an adult, you're over 20 years old, you want to go through this stuff, and you want to pay your money. You want to pay your money to go through get the hormone treatments, go through the hundreds of thousands of dollars of cosmetic surgery, then that's on you. I don't want to pay for it. Okay, I don't think my insurance company should pay for it. Okay,
Of
that's
course,
on you.
I hear what you're saying, and I think especially how our brain develops, like our prefrontal cortex, the lobe when it's developed, we can't make really intense decisions that are going to be extremely transformative because that can affect us our whole life. Of course, we want to make very intense decisions when we're really fully cognitive. It's all about, and you're right about when there are children, they're not cognitively developed. So it's very important that that's why we have issues with things like pedophilia. It's because what happens with that is that children are not able to consent to these things. So if you're a parent and you have a child who who identifies as non-binary, you can support your child, but of course you don't go to places like gender reassignment. That's just not. That's something that the child really needs.
But you said that so that's a couple things you're not understanding. Okay, well I shouldn't say you're not understanding, but you're kind of not getting here. Well, first of all, I reject the whole thing of gender non-binary. No, we are binary. Our code is binary. Our genetic, even though it's 4 chemicals, okay, it is still binary. Okay, at its base, it's basically base 4, but it's still base to binary code. Okay. However you break it down, it's just you just got to double. No, because I'm sorry, Kenny, we're talking about genetics here, but no. So the genetic code is 4 chemicals, right, or 4 amino acids, whatever you want to call it. But no, they come in pairs. Okay, so it's really binary. Okay, you got an adenine and a guanine, okay, but then you got the opposite pair of that. So no, it is binary no matter what. Even our genetic code is binary. You just do the math, and it's to the power of 4, okay, instead of the power of 2 if you're just writing regular code. Okay, but anyway, point being is this, okay, is if you go. Oh, by the way, Kenny, welcome back to your show. But
yeah, my laptop just cut off just all of a sudden. The second time this evening, it just cut off.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on.
But again, if an adult to me comes up and says I'm this or that, I don't care as long as you're paying my check. But I'm still gonna say, okay, no, you're not a woman. You can never be a woman. And if a chick comes up and says I'm a man, no, you can never be. I'm actually offended by these women who are getting their breasts chopped off, and I am so against that, more so than a dude getting his nuts chopped off, because that's just wrong. Don't touch the boobies. I'm sorry. I am against that. Okay? But no, seriously, they pump themselves full of the amount of testosterone. You know how much testosterone they're putting in their bodies? 4 times the amount of a pubescent boy, teenage boy. We're all adults. You remember going through puberty? You remember that chemical, that testosterone? Oh, no, it was not. Well, it was fun, but it wasn't fun. You know what I mean? No, don't do that. But I am offended by these women that come and say, well, I'm really a man. No, you're not. Just because you got your breasts cut off and you're taking testosterone and you're growing hair all over your body, that's not what makes you a man. That's not what makes you a male. How dare you offend me in that sort of terms? But again, point being is this, okay? What is happening with this stuff is just wrong. It's wrong on every level, okay? It is the sterilization. It is of children. It is removing healthy body parts of children, okay? Now, if an adult wants to do it, fine. I really don't care, okay? But don't tell me that you are something that you are not because it makes you feel good. Okay, I'll call you by whatever name you want. Okay? But I won't sit there and say you're a woman. I won't sit there and say you're a she when you're really a he, or you're a he when you're really a she. Okay?
Let
And
me mention something.
you're a they. Well, no, hold on. I just want to mention this they. What do you mean they? How many people are there in there? They. They is plural. What are you talking about? Are you talking a legion?
That they and them thing, it sounds demonic. It sounds like a legion.
Exactly.
It sounds like a bunch of demons. That's
Exactly.
what I think every time I hear that.
And
Let me
you're
read
making also
something real quick.
whatever. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I addressed this binary and non-binary issue in the very first chapter of the book because it's extremely important. And so the first chapter is called Transgenderism, where I'm breaking it all down. And so I say in the book, I say gender identity is defined by Merriam-Webster as a person's internal sense of being male, female, some combination of male and female, or neither male nor female. Along with that, the transgender movement has developed 112 gender pronouns and 71 suffixes. The words and their definitions are very bizarre, and most transgender people can't name them, let alone define them. When questioned about them, most resort to using, this is very important, when questioned about them, most resort to using the same old pronouns of male and female that have always been used for centuries. Although most will mention the words binary and non-binary into two groups or classes that are considered diametrically opposite, by example, males and females. Non-binary is something or someone not restricted to two things or parts. It does not use two as its base when relating to or being a person who identifies with or expresses a gender identity that is neither entirely male nor entirely female. Many people who claim to be non-binary use they and their as their preferred pronouns when referring to themselves as individuals, thereby using plural expressions to describe a singular identity. The word identity is defined as the distinguishing character or personality of an individual that expresses their individuality, which is established by their psychological identification. Transgender people claim their sexual identity is assigned to them by a doctor at birth and that it can be changed or reassigned later in life to correct it during their so-called transition. Transition, this is important, is defined as passage from one state, stage, subject, or place to another. It is a change, a movement, a development, or evolution from one form, stage, or style to another. And I ask the question, can a person change anything about themselves other than appearance, thinking, attitude, or beliefs? Sure, a person can change locations, relationships, occupations, religions, but can a person change what biology proves them to be? Can someone change what our Creator, blessed and exalted as He created them to be? Of course not. But transgender activists claim that it's possible. They claim that people can simply reassign something that no human being could have assigned in the first place. And that's extremely important because who assigned a human being to be a male or a female? Obviously, it was God. It was our Creator that did that, and no human being has the right to try to defy that by claiming that there's something else or someone else is something else.
Exactly. The Bible says before you were in the womb. The Bible says before you were in the womb, I knew you. I created you. Everything about you before you were even in the womb.
Yeah.
I ordained.
I mentioned a man by the name of Chris Rufo in the book. And
he's good. I'm part of his locals community. Yeah, he's really cool. You enjoyed? Yeah, definitely. It was
Yeah, I
good.
mentioned a video featured a video that featured a presenter by the name of Jamie Joy, who described himself as a kinky, polyamorous, pretty big slut, is what he called himself. And I said that Joy was proud to talk about having organized orgies and exploring fantasies and perversions. And at one point, Joy and another presenter by the name of Lucy Fielding, a self-described white, queer, kinky, polyamorous, visibly able-bodied, Jewish, witchy, non-binary, trans femme, is what this person called themselves. Discuss
Wow,
ways.
that's a mouthful.
Yeah, yeah, it's proud of it, right? Discuss ways to describe
Yeah,
genitalia and
here you go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, discuss ways to describe genitalia in non-gendered language by using words such as goodies, front hole, back hole, and I don't mean to be. Um, I'm just reading what I say in the book here. Front hole, back hole, junk, bits, treasure, and more. In another video, award-winning plastic surgeon Dr. Scott Mosser of the San Francisco Bay Area gave a speech about his experience of performing gender-affirming surgery for more than a decade. Mosser stated that there is no age limit for children to begin their quote-unquote gender journey. He added that he has done a few consults for 12-year-olds, although most of his patients have been 14 and older. And he says, and I quote, "I do not have a minimum age of any sort in my practice," he said. "There is no chronological age that says you don't get surgery. Having said that, I don't think I've done a consult on a 12-year-old yet, but we would if one came our way." So this is the part I wanted to read just briefly. It says, Rufo said that the school district has worked with the conference organizer, the Mazzani Center, to develop sex education programs for students. And I say, decent God-fearing people should ask why teachers need to be educated to discuss sexuality with their students. What reason could there be other than to groom students to accept gender ideologies that focus on sex in classroom breeding grounds? You're right. So I asked that question. It is nearly impossible to see a man dressed as a woman or a woman dressed as a man and not have some sort of sexual thought come to mind. That doesn't mean you're fantasizing, but you're wondering, what this person is all about. I mean, so I say curiosity about such a person's genitalia is almost automatic, and so because you wonder, has this person had a transition? Have they mutilated themselves? Has he cut it off?
Kenny, we lost you.
It,
You're frozen.
it automatically draws attention to sexual body parts. This is the devil that's planting these seeds. Be of a certain age for that to happen. Adults are supposed to be better equipped to deal with sexual issues, but children are gullible and impressionable. The transgender community is aware of that, and that is why it is important for the activists to impress upon children ideas that fit their agenda as early, because they're already conditioned and have been groomed to accept these gender ideologies. You don't have to fight them in the future, and that's what they're gunning for. They can't. They're not going to be as successful with people of our age and our generations and so forth, because we didn't grow up with these ideologies. But these kids are growing up with these ideologies, and it's going to get more and more complicated as time goes by. And that's why we have to stand up as God-fearing people and teach our children the right way, and be willing to be uncompromising regarding the truth, and certainly use truth in the face of falsehood all the time, no matter what's going on, under any circumstance. Always speak the truth, inshallah.
Dude, Kenny,
You
I'm very impressed. I have to say, I'm very impressed here. I will actually buy this book and read it and critique it. But anyway, here's I got a couple questions for you on this. First of all, we got an election coming up here in a few months. Are you going to vote? First off,
No,
okay.
no, I don't
Why
trust
not?
any politicians, and
Okay.
because I don't.
Oh no! Stop! Please stop. Here's the thing: it is the official Democratic position of the party that is promoting this stuff. If you want to make change other than writing the book, and honestly, it sounds good, okay, you need to vote Republican. I'm sorry. Bite the bullet and vote Republican. This is a very serious election. No, because the Republican, no, hold on. No, it does matter because the Republican Party's official position is against this crap, especially in your state, Texas. Definitely. Your governor and your congressman and your state representatives, this is important. It's an important thing. You need to get out there and vote, okay? Because if you are truly against this stuff, because this stuff is coming down from the federal and state level. This is being enacted as an law. All right, but no, I'm serious. You need to vote Republican.
Yeah,
you need to vote Republican. I'm serious. Go register, vote Republican. But that's my speech on this. That's my speech on this because you are sounding Republican. You're listening to conservatives like Walsh and Knowles. Okay, these are conservatives. I mean, this you subscribe to the water.
If they're speaking truth, then I endorse that. Matter of fact, I joined their website because I specifically had a discussion with a Muslim about that because I was like, in with this particular issue, they're speaking truth, and as I mentioned earlier, regardless of what our faith is, what our religion is, if you're God-fearing people, you should be coming together to fight against this devilish ideology. And but as far as
not only do you need to vote, but you need to run. You need to run it. Who trusts the politicians? I am talking about the party. I am talking about the ideology. I am talking about at least on this topic. Okay, this needs to be opposed. This needs to be voted. But no, there's something else you can do. You can actually register and run in your local school board. This is the thing where this needs to be done. Okay, but no, we'll talk later on this. We'll get you registered. We'll get you voted. That's great. But anyway, I do got a question for you because you mentioned Katerina. Okay, and I don't mean to bring up stuff, but she actually works and promotes for one of these gender clinics, or she used to work for, but she doesn't.
I've had a discussion with her about this. We talked quite a while about this situation, and she's her own person, and I don't.
I get that, but
I can't dictate what she does or what she doesn't do. But I told her clearly, and I explained to her, and I recommended to her that she does read my book and so forth because I addressed a lot of these points from a Muslim standpoint. It's not overly religious, but I do address and defend the truth of our God, our Creator, throughout the book. I mean, there's no doubt about that. That's the primary reason for the book. But it's a lot of information. But I told her in regards to her friend that is affected by Klinefelter syndrome, who has ovotestes. I explained to her what the doctors say about this issue, and that if he produces sperm, he's a man. If he doesn't produce eggs, he can't be a woman. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And so,
I was just wondering. I was just wondering because because I saw the Facebook post. She promotes this dude that thinks he's a chick as a doctor. That's part of the problem. Running these gender clinics. I was just saying. I don't mean to cause strife or anything like that.
Yeah, that discussion I had with her is actually the last discussion that I've had with her. Period. So I don't know if she's. I mean, it wasn't a bad discussion. It was a friendly discussion, but I don't know what she has going on. I haven't talked to her. I've been extremely busy. Actually all year I've been extremely busy. And see, I'm not even home now. I'm out of town.
It's funny.
Huh?
Kind of funny how all of a sudden COVID ends and I'll go back to work. We're like, oh crap.
Yeah. I've been traveling all year. So I haven't, the streams have obviously slowed down and so forth. I'm just too busy, man. I was writing the book and so forth, and So I haven't been real accessible just because I've been busy. So
well, anyway, Republican Party, vote, register. Seriously, if you're serious about this issue, I mean, no, even on just a one level issue, huh?
Yeah.
Well, no, vote.
Yeah.
You got to because no, seriously. If we don't vote, this shit becomes law. This is becoming law. Okay,
Well, it's
and
already,
this is the
it's
official.
already law. Yeah.
Well, no, well then we got to stop it from being more law. We got to overturn this stuff. Look at DeSantis. He's totally throwing this stuff out in Florida. Your governor in Texas, same deal. Okay, but no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Even if you're going to be just one issue voter, this is the one issue. We need to put a stop to this, and we need to say no, and we need your vote. Vote Republican. Encourage all your Muslim friends to vote Republican.
If I was going to vote, I would in this situation I would vote Republican. There's no doubt about it, because
exactly. It's the only alternative.
But with that being said, politicians being politicians, they're going to go where the votes are, and it's any politicians is
well, then that's why you need to make your vote. That's why you need to make your vote on this issue for that. That's what I'm saying. And actually, no, the Republican Party has been pretty strict on this. No,
I'm voicing my opinion. Yeah, my vote is being cast with my book, and I'm letting my position be known, and to me that's casting my vote on the issue. That's why I mentioned.
All right, we'll talk later on this. I'll convert you. You're going to be a Republican. You're going to vote. You're going to be a registered Republican. No, seriously, I will convert you on this. Anyway, Kenny, I hate you, love you, whatever. Okay, but it was great having this conversation on this topic. Okay, and I bust your balls, whatever. No big deal. Don't take it so personal. Just saying, dude. Okay, no big deal.
Listen,
whatever.
If people knew me that don't like me, if they actually knew who I am, this is the way I always am. I don't look for trouble with people, and I don't like confrontation. It's.
We'll talk about that stuff later. Let's end it on a positive note, okay? All right, but on this topic. But all right, I gotta go because I gotta go to work tomorrow. Oh dear God! You know what? Honestly, I want to go back to COVID lockdown where I didn't have to get up and get on that train and ride to downtown Chicago. I got video right now. What just happened right outside my house? There was a chick with a gun, going to shoot someone. Oh, it was. I got video of it, but anyway, dude, I just don't want to ride that train tomorrow. It's gonna suck. Anyway, all right. I'll talk to you guys later. God bless. Come to Christ. Vote Republican. Okay. Either way, we're good. All right. Later. All right. Bye.
All right. Take it easy. So you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. All right. I need to pray. It's time for Maghrib here.
Yeah, I know.
I need to get here shortly. So, man, thanks for coming to the panel. And I thought you were part of the book launch team. Didn't I send you a copy of the book?
You did, and I actually liked the beginning of the book. I am very pro diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's actually something that's important for me. Funny enough, and I really liked your story about how you became a Muslim and that you were doing music and how you. And it was interesting. It was even connected to Nation of Islam. I actually.
Which book you talking about? I thought I sent you a PDF of the new book. Are you talking about the Consider Islam?
I think it was like the intro of the book was talking about your journey and stuff. The book that I got.
Oh, you talking about Consider Islam, I believe, because this book I don't talk about.
The book I received
kind of gives okay.
You might want to send me the book again. I'll read it.
So
I'll read it for sure. But I like that intro of the book that I did receive.
Yeah.
I said that's really cool. Like your life experience, I think it's really important and it's valid, and I need to affirm it.
Are you talking about the about the author portion?
Yes, that was. I think maybe that was
about
it.
the author talks about
the book. Yeah, I was just starting to. I was reading the whole book, and
Yeah.
I just started reading it, and then I was like, well, when I get more time, I'll read the
Okay.
rest. But I started reading from the beginning.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's good having you come to the panel.
Thank you.
We were able to
Jazakallah
have a
khair.
decent conversation. Yeah. Yeah. All right, brother.
Appreciate
All right. So you take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, peace. That's fine.
So, hey, listen. So, everyone listening and watching right now, my book, if you feel strongly about this issue as strongly as I do, you can help support this idea. I'm not looking for money. I'm just looking for you to support the content of this book. If you'd like to become a member of my book launch team, I'm going to actually send you a free paper copy of this book. It will be released on September the 5th. God willing, inshallah, it'll be released on September the 5th. If you'd like a free paperback copy, you can become a member of my book launch team. And all I ask you to do is read a PDF copy that I will send you and just leave an honest review. I'm not asking you to say anything or lie or say I'm the best guy in the world, the best book you ever read or anything like that, but just leave an honest review. If you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, that's fine too. All I'm looking for is an honest review. As a member of the book launch team. So if you'd like to do that, you can email me at info at Kenny. One second. My laptop is acting crazy. So anyway, so that will I'll respond with some information. You can send me an email once again at info@kennybomer.com. I'm going to respond with some information about the book launch team, and basically I just summarized it. All you need to do is just read September the 5th, and then that week go and just leave an honest review on Amazon. You have to be an Amazon customer or prior Amazon customer to leave a review there. For them. If you're not an Amazon customer, you can also go to Goodreads, and I'll have that link sent out as well at some point along the way. So you'll be able to go and leave an honest review at either Amazon or on Goodreads, or both for that matter. Your address. I'm going to send you a free paperback copy of this book. Your right to self-identify, my right to disagree. Hey, listen, but if you want to do the same thing with my book, Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda, I'll do the same thing there. Just read the book. Okay, I'm back again. My internet's crazy at this hotel. But anyways, what I was saying is if you want to do the same thing with my book, Consider Islam, you can find it on Amazon, the first edition and the second edition. I recommend reading the second edition because I've added content to it, to each chapter. And it breaks down misconceptions and misunderstandings about Islam. It talks about the Islamophobia in the world and how propaganda is used to attack and demonize Islam. But if you'd like to do the same thing for that book, contact me, info@kennybomer.com, and I will make you a member of the book launch team. And after you read a portion of the book and leave a review, honest review on Amazon, I will send you a free paperback copy of the book. So with that being said, I do bear witness there's no God other than Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is his final servant, the seal of all prophets. Shadu Allah ilaha illallah, shadu na Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Thank you for watching. Hey, listen, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like, and hit share, and hit the little bell wherever it's at. Hit that little bell if you would. And may our God, our Creator, bless you and your family and protect us all and have mercy on each and every one of us on the day of judgment. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.